Hey, hi everyone. So today, I have with me, this is Jack Hope. If you are like familiar with the cricket podcast, so it's like a huge, it's a huge independent cricket podcast. I'm hoping like anyone who watches my channel will probably know him and his the YouTube. It has 11K subscribers as well, so it's a huge thing. So today, like I'm really grateful that he joins me today. So basically, we are going to just talk about the T20 World Cup. So when we are recording it, so it's already midweek into the qualifiers, the T20 qualifiers. Basically, I'm still recovering from the Junaid Siddiqui six. Still okay. So it was like a massive hit, so 109 meters. So that's the thing. Before I begin the discussion, so I just want to ask you, like, how excited are you for this World Cup on a scale of 1 to 10? So because so overall, if I ask you,
It's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Because we had a World Cup so recently in this format, probably slightly less excited than normal. I think it's good that it's in Australia and not the UAE again, and I'm certainly looking forward to what I think will be a more interesting tournament than the tournament this time last year in the UAE. I don't know. Let's give it a 7. Maybe that'll go up to an 8 once we get to see some big boys this weekend.
Overall, like we have had like a very electric start to the World Cup qualifiers as well. So again, Namibia beat Sri Lanka as well, and West Indies also got beat by Scotland. So if I like ask you, as far as the qualifiers go, so which team do you think has impressed you the most as of now from the two groups we have seen?
Oh, that's a pretty tricky one. I think the team I was probably surprised by the most was Scotland. Now we know they were quite good, and they did well at the last tournament as well, didn't they? Beating Bangladesh. But I think that the manner in which they beat West Indies, like so emphatically, is probably what impressed me the most. If you'd asked me, this time yesterday, I might have said Namibia, but now that they've lost to the Netherlands, it's sort of 1-1 for them. So let's say Scotland as the team that I think of. Surprised me. Also, Zimbabwe. I think Zimbabwe have been they're a team definitely on the up. They've got results recently against Australia in the ODI format, and I think the way they were able to beat Ireland, even though they had some early setbacks, shows that they're quite a complete team as well.
Yeah. So I was like following this UAE side, right? So UAE, like if the last I remember of UAE was they had many 30-year-olds playing. So I think this one is a very young bunch of like players they have come up with UAE. So I think that's a progressive thing from their side. And also I think that apart from, so I'm also like quite content with their performance so far. Yeah, they have lost 2 games, but I think they have shown like things to improve upon, and I think they will come back strong as well. So overall, like, if I like ask you about the format of this World Cup, so are you satisfied with how things are? Like even in the last World Cup, we had this like qualifiers, and then you play into the Super 12s, or do you think that it can be a more inclusive kind of a thing or something else?
If it were me, it would be 24 teams in 4 groups of 6, and everyone would have 5 matches, and there'd be 2 games a day, and it would feel a bit more like a World Cup from the outset. I think I don't think it's a great advert for the tournament, to be honest. And this is what the World T20 is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a big advert for the format and for cricket, especially in some of these smaller nations. I don't think you accomplish that if you play a game in front of 500 people in a 25,000 seater stadium. And with all the respect in the world, the 2 teams playing are the Netherlands and Namibia. I feel like a World Cup should start with the host nation playing in front of a full house to sort of make a statement. And I don't think we quite got that. Having said that, there is an advantage if you're really interested in cricket, and I have enjoyed being able to focus on some of these teams in a way that I wouldn't normally. If it's the only cricket on, I will watch it, and the games have been pretty good so far. Maybe not as high quality as Australia v India or whatever, but you can't say that UAE v Netherlands match on Sunday wasn't absolutely thrilling, because it was a great game of cricket.
Yeah, so even I feel so. I've been like so I from my point of view, I want the structure to be more like the football World Cup. So basically it's like the FIFA, they have like these groups, right? It's more like interesting to watch and follow as well. So yeah, so that's my thought. And So overall, if you were an associate side, right? So if you say you were Scotland or Namibia in the current situation, so given the two Super 12 groups right now, let's call one the Asia group and the other the like Australia, New Zealand, the other group. So which group would you rather be in as an associate nation, say a Namibia or Scotland? So which group would you prefer to be in?
I think. I think it's a pretty tough one. I think the stronger group is probably the India, Pakistan, South Africa group, because I think all three of those. I think they're three of the five best teams in the tournament. The flip side to that is that England and Australia are probably going to enjoy the conditions more than those teams. So, if you're looking at trying to get through the group stage, I think that might, in a sense, be the harder group to get through. I think it's a tough one. Which one would you say? Which one would you rather be if you were Sri Lanka right now?
If I was Sri Lanka, like I would probably want to go to the Australia and New Zealand group, because I feel that Sri Lanka has some good mystery spinners as well. So I think if spin is your thing, I think that group is better to go. Even like many people feel that Afghanistan has a tough thing, but I feel that Afghanistan is better off in the other group than in the India Pakistan group, because I think that will give the Rashid Khan and everybody else like a better chance to like exploit the, if any, spin weaknesses of the like Australia, New Zealand. So let's see how it goes basically. And so if we are coming to the big games right now, the Super 12. So like, what's your which game are you like looking forward to the most? So like, which one?
Looking forward to the most. The answer is pretty obvious, isn't it? It's Sunday the 23rd. It's India v Pakistan. That is the big game. That will be the big game in the tournament until we reach the knockout stages. I think there will be some other pretty interesting ones in that group. I think South Africa are capable of beating India and Pakistan, and so that's a potential banana skin, even for the winner of that match on Sunday. In the other group, I am interested in seeing how New Zealand play. Now, I have a suspicion that they might be a bit disappointing in this tournament. Obviously, they've made the final of the last two ICC tournaments, but I think some of their players have probably passed their best, or looking for other opportunities in the case of Trent Boult. However, I think they surprised people in the last tournament as well. So I kind of want to get a temperature check on where New Zealand are at. So I think the first New Zealand game, interested from a what can they achieve point of view, and then India Pakistan from the point of view of the what the biggest game is.
Yeah, so even like I feel that two teams I think are a bit under the radar this World Cup are New Zealand and also Bangladesh. I feel also Bangladesh have not done that well in T20 format as well. So like I am guessing that New Zealand and Bangladesh like might be a bit disappointing. So like, I don't know. I want to comment on that. Like let's see how it goes. So so even like before this tournament started, right? So Sri Lanka won the Asia Cup, and like even like I was from an outside perspective, like I was like really excited to actually like see how far they go, because so I've been like talking with many people as well. So even they were like excited to see where Sri Lanka go. So they lost to Namibia, but today like they basically like skiddled out UAE for nothing basically. So how do you see them basically as a team to be in this too? Are they a team to beat in this World Cup, or you think that they're not that good enough to challenge the big ones?
I think there's something like sixth or seventh best in the tournament, and that makes me sound quite negative. But if you're the sixth or seventh best team in a T20 competition, and there's the margins of victory are going to be pretty fine. 6 runs here, a wicket there. That gives them a decent shot of making it through to the to the knockout round. Even at this point in time, like I know you look at their group, they're sitting in third place. The reality is though they play the Netherlands on the final day. They've got a pretty good net run rate. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they smashed the Netherlands, won the group, and everyone's sort of forgotten that performance against Namibia by this time next week. The big problem for them is basically batting. They don't really have any batters who you would say can fulfill an anchor role. and they don't, beyond maybe Rajapaksa, have anyone who you would say is on the sort of elite end of hitting either, and that means they're going to be a little bit frail. It's perfectly possible that they collapse and they're 100 all out again in this tournament at some point. Having said that, they do have some of the pieces that you need to be quite good. Rajapaksa had a fantastic IPL. Hasaranga's probably in the best sort of 3 or 4 leg spinners in the world, plus he can bat. Chamira is frankly too fast for some players. So you mix that all up, and on their day they'll have a chance against anyone. I think they're a really exciting team, even if they're probably not quite at the level where they've developed to be a consistent threat for semi-finals and finals in this format yet.
So before so we spoke about the India-Pakistan game, right, on this, which is going to happen on Sunday. So I think there's a rain threat as well in Australia, like I'm hearing. So there might be the rain might play a bit of spoil sport in this tournament as well. Yeah. So overall, if we say that the game goes on, so overall, what do you think are the strengths? So Pakistan, I guess, will obviously are the better bowling side as of now. I feel. So overall, if we talk about particularly the India-Pakistan game, how do you see it basically turning out? Where do you think each team can, what's the weaknesses in both sides? What do you think about that?
So I think there's a couple of sort of interesting points here, and I think some of it will depend on who India select. So the first battle I'd look for, or the first point I'd highlight, is who will bowl spin for Pakistan and how India will deal with that. There is the possibility that India pick a lineup of all right-handers with Akshar Patel as the only sort of left-handed batter in the squad, or in the matchday 11 rather, and that means Shadab Khan and Mohammad Nawaz will have an advantage, you'd say, against that right-hand dominated lineup spinning the ball away from them. Now it's perfectly possible that Surya Kumar Yadav and Hardik Pandya still smash them all around the ground, but they're the little margins that can have quite a big difference, or can make quite a big difference in a T20. The other thing, whether Shaheen Afridi is back from his injury, it's not really clear whether he will be, and I doubt he'll be at 100% fitness, but if he is anything like 100% fitness, that will be a challenge for India, as we saw at the last World Cup. Final point, and just on Pakistan's strength, is probably Haris Rauf, who's one of the top death bowlers in the world at the moment, and I think that could be another factor in Pakistan's advantage. If you look at how India are sort of lining up at the moment, they don't have a lot of strength in depth when it comes to hitting pace at the death. Akshar Patel's probably more of a spin hitter. Dinesh Karthik's obviously had a great year with RCB, but he'd probably be the only player that that they can bank on in that role. And Haris Rauf might have some sort of joy there. So with those strengths in mind, Pakistan can win the match, but the flip side to that is that Pakistan's batting is pretty atrocious in T20 cricket, and I think that hands the advantage to India. It's even with some nice bowlers, I think Pakistan will have trouble taking enough early wickets to really stop India building a good score. And even without Bumrah, I think the Indian bowling is strong enough to take care of this Pakistani batting 11.
Yeah, so even what I feel is Pakistan, the batting is a problem, especially if the World Cup is in Australia. So if it was in, say, in Asia conditions, then I would have said that Pakistan would have been a stronger challenge for India. But since it's in Australia, I feel that India, their batting problems can be escalated a bit. So let's see how it goes. And so apart from this big game, so I guess let's talk about England a bit as well. So England, so how is so obviously I think England, the batting, everybody knows they're the best, I guess, hitters right now going around. Everyone, the Butlers and everybody. So how do you think the bowling lineup is of England right now, with many injuries also happening? I read somewhere that Reece Topley might also be in doubt. So how do you think the bowling is standing up for England?
Yeah, it sounds like Topley's almost certainly going to be out of the first match of the tournament. He trod on a boundary triangle doing a fielding drill and twisted his ankle, so he's out of that one. England need to cross their fingers, I think, on that and hope he is back, because I think Reece Topley's having a pretty good year with the ball, and he's one of the bowlers who can bowl in the power play and at the death. England don't have a lot of options that can do that sort of top and tail role. I get the sense that England will try and gamble on and take wickets early. I can see a situation where they pick Wokes over Chris Jordan, for example, and hope that Chris Wokes takes wickets in the power play, meaning that it doesn't really matter who's bowling at the death because the damage has already been done up front. Topley, again, a good power play bowler, and he'd help with that if he's fit. And then Mark Wood and Adil Rashid should be able to take wickets through the middle overs. And if England can have a team 6 down by the 15th, 16th over, they should be okay at the death. If they have a team 3 down, then they could concede 70 off the last 5 overs. It's quite a big risk they're taking, and I think that'll make them quite an interesting team to watch with the ball, because I do expect them to be very, very aggressive in the pursuit of wickets, knowing that they effectively don't have anything in reserve later on. The alternative, I suppose, is to pick Chris Jordan. I don't know if he helps that much when it comes to death bowling. I mean, he's probably past his best in that role, and we saw Neesham take him to the cleaners, didn't we? At the last World Cup, and he went round the park in his only IPL game of this season. So, I wouldn't want to make a bet on him being the difference. Put it that way.
So if you are England is there. So let's talk about the home nation like Australia. So how is Australia according to you? So I think Steve Smith should not. Personally, I don't feel Steve Smith should be in the squad because there are many better hitters as well. So what's your take overall on the Australia squad? So do you think they are strong contenders this time, given it's already in their home as well?
I think Australia are probably the favourites for the tournament, even though I agree with you. I think they'll make a mistake and pick Steve Smith. I think even with Smith in the side, they should be able to field like David Warner and Glenn Maxwell. They'll probably get Stoinis in. They might even find a way to get Tim David in as well. And that kind of firepower should be enough, I think, through the innings to put some decent scores on the board. Matt Wade's having a very, very good year, kind of under the radar a little bit, and is balances the team nicely, batting at sort of 7 with the gloves. Zampa's a good leg spinner. Hazelwood's one of the best power play bowlers in the world. Stark seems to have got a little bit more white ball form. A potential weakness with the ball in T20 cricket, I think, is Pat Cummins. But what Pat Cummins can cost you with the ball, he probably makes up for by batting number 8 and being able to hit like a 14 ball 50 in the right conditions. So it's there's a lot of power in that lineup, and I think they're probably just about favourites to win the tournament. Having said that, they haven't done that well in the warm-ups, have they? What do they lose? Lost to India. They've lost to England twice. So everything I'm saying could be wrong. I don't think they're clear favourites, but I'd say they were just favourites because of home conditions.
Yeah, I will ask you about the favourites thing a bit later. So overall, the World Cup is happening in Australia. So how do you think the ground dimensions will it play a part? Because Australia has big grounds. I'm assuming it has big grounds. So do you think that the ICC bringing in the grounds to make it uniform, or are we expecting the MCG to be the huge ground we all know it is? So over there, are we expecting more sixes, or we are expecting more the Kohlis and say the Steve Smith kind of players to actually make a bigger impact over there? So what do you think about that?
I think they'll largely leave the boundaries where they are. I think it'll be one of the harder. What you'll need to hit the ball a reasonably long way to hit 6. Certainly for the qualifiers, the straight boundaries have been very, very long. The square boundaries have been quite short, but that's more because they're playing in AFL stadiums basically. So it's 55 meters either side, rather than a bit longer. I think they'll be quite long at most of the traditional grounds that we see later in the tournament, though. I do think that will be mitigated slightly by the pitches being quite good and being quite fresh. I think they'll do quite a good job on that. So I still think you'll see lots of sort of 180 plus scores, even if the ball isn't going for six all the time. I think the good batters will be able to sort of pick bowlers off the fours here and there. It could be good for Kohli. Kohli's got a really good track record in Oz. I don't think it will be good for Steve Smith because I think the game's just moved on too much. Kohli has made a change to how he plays, and that's why we're starting to see him return to form a little bit. Add to that the fact that they'll be playing in Australia, a place he's got, he's historically proven. I think if you're a Kohli fan, there's reason to believe he could have a good tournament. I don't see any indicators for Steve Smith that he will be particularly useful to this Australian team.
So even like Kohli enjoys batting in Australia as well. Those conditions really suit him as well. So should make a major impact this World Cup. And so right now let's do a bit of a prediction thing with you. So I want to just ask you a few things. So if I start, so what do you think? So if I ask you to choose from the two groups, so what's your top four? So what's your top four?
So I'm going to go with England and Australia. I think that's quite obvious. That's Pool A, isn't it? And then I think in Group B, I think India will go through, and I think it'll be very close for second. But I think it will depend on whether Shaheen Afridi is fit. If Shaheen Afridi plays all the games, I think that Pakistan will make it through. If he doesn't, then I would back South Africa. I think it's very, very close between those teams. They're both got some good players, but they're also both sort of slightly flawed. But I think Shaheen, a world-class bowler, would tip it in favour of Pakistan.
And a team which you feel like can be the dark horse this World Cup, performing beyond their expectations. Maybe.
On our podcast, I said Sri Lanka. And then they lost the opening game to Namibia. I still think Sri Lanka can cause an upset and can affect a group. I'm maybe less confident that they can make the playoffs now, but I think Sri Lanka will beat a team and cause some trouble for somebody. I'm gonna stick with Sri Lanka, even though they could go out in the first round.
Yeah, so a team which will perform maybe beyond their expectations. Like maybe we are expecting something. So what's your take on that? Yeah.
Well, I think Scotland already have to some extent. Namibia possibly too. What I'd like to see is one of the associate nations or one of the smaller nations win some matches in the next round. So in the last tournament, everyone was excited when Scotland beat Bangladesh, but then they couldn't quite make the step up when it came to some of the big boys and got beaten quite badly in some of those matches. I think it would be good to see a team like Scotland pull off an upset, and I think that could happen. Or even like a team like Zimbabwe, take down one of the big boys or do something to leave themselves with a chance of qualification going into some of the later matches. That's what I'd hope to, and I think we probably will. I think I have a good feeling that someone will do it. I'm not sure who, but I do. I've got a feeling that one, either Namibia, Scotland, or Zimbabwe will cause a little bit of trouble for some teams in the next round.
Yeah, so I think even the Australian conditions should suit the associate nations a bit better than the last UAE pitches. So they have got some decent bowlers as well. So yeah, and so who do you think will be the highest, say, the run scorer and the wicket taker, right? Not takers.
Highest run scorer, I am going to go with Joss Buttler. I think opening the batting, you get a little bit more time to get settled. He likes playing in Australia too, and he looked pretty good touch in the warm-ups. Wickets is a tricky one. I think Hazelwood bowling for Australia will take quite a few wickets in the power play. I think obviously here talking about teams that are sort of going to be in the next round, because hasn't Hasaranga already got 4? So if he gets through, he'll end up with 12 wickets for the tournament, and that might make him top. But I think of the players from the Super 12 stage onwards, let's say Hazelwood and Butler, but it's a pretty open field. It could be any one of a number of bowlers. Surya Kumar Yadav could do it. I think Kohli could probably do it with the bat. Rizwan's definitely in the conversation. And even a wild card like Riley Russo or someone like Quinton de Kock from South Africa could have a really good tournament. There's some very, very good players in this comp.
Yeah, and so this is a funny question. So I don't know, like, if you're a fan of man-cadding or not, but then, like, so how many man-cads have we seen this World Cup?
I think we'll see one. I'm going to say one. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, there's a guy called Peter Della Penna who has been screenshotting moments from different games, and he found loads of the Sri Lanka batters were leaving their crease before the bowler had bowled the ball. So there are still teams that haven't paid attention to the fact that it will happen, and there are players out there that will mankad you. I expect it to happen at least once, or maybe just once. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, it's one of those things in sport, isn't it? If you stop paying attention. If you risk leaving your crease a bit early, then sometimes you're going to be out. You don't get second chances when you bat, unfortunately.
So like before we finish it off, so I obviously the last question is basically, so I guess you already said you are expecting Australia to be the favorites, but so who do you, so if I ask you one final time, who do you think will be the team to absolutely beat this time? Like the team you think has the highest potential to actually clinch the thing, and anything other than that would be maybe a underachievement for them. Any such team?
Well, I think there are three teams for whom it would be a disaster, given where they are in their development and the conditions, if they didn't make it through to the knockout rounds. India, England and Australia, I think, are the clear best teams in this tournament. And I think between them would win 7 out of 10 times this tournament is played, maybe even 8 out of 10 times. I think it's quite close between England and Australia. I'd maybe give Australia an advantage in the semi-final against India or Pakistan because of the conditions benefit, and I don't know if England will benefit from that as much. In a head-to-head between England and Australia, though, I think it's quite tight. I do think between those three, it's quite hard to call. Probably before Bumrah's injury, I'd have had India down as the favourites, but that just opens up a little bit of a weakness in the death bowling slot. And I don't know if I fully trust the Indian selectors to pick the best 11 as well, which is trouble. So yeah, I don't know. I think if India, Australia, and England don't make the knockout stages, I think that would be the biggest disappointment in the tournament.
Yeah. So this is all I had basically to ask you today. So thank you for joining. So this is what we are done today. Yeah. So basically we discussed about the T20 World Cup. So we are in the midweek. So in the coming Saturday, Sunday, the big games are gonna start, the Super 12 ones. So this is it. So hope you all enjoyed this conversation I had with Jack. So thank you for joining as well. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, check out our podcast as well, the Cricket Pod, or at the Cricket Pod on Twitter if that's where you spend your time, or just search the Cricket Podcast on YouTube, and we'll be up there doing 3 shows a week through the tournament. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.